What is going on, true believers? Welcome to the Believes Crypto Show. My name is Believes. You might be asking yourself, Believes, why are you wearing a child's shirt this morning? And to that, I would say, that's Ipkiss Pinecone, baby. That's the guy who does my intro song. So I'm just supporting my guy. Unfortunately, it was an XL shirt that I got. And by the way, since I've lost 120 pounds, I'm going to fit into this a little bit better. Now, over time, I think it's going to fit quite a bit better, but who knows? Yeah, I mean, you never really know, right? I mean, you never know. I mean, you just, maybe you don't know, but you know.
Is your FCM equipped?
You know, and you know it. So anyway, make sure you hit the like button on the way in. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let's kick it off. Let's have some fun here. We are, and by the way, I've made some changes to what we're doing here, and we're still in portrait mode. Still want to focus on portrait mode for a little while because I think that's a better display resolution for people who are on mobile devices, and 85% of my viewers are using mobile devices. So if this is too much for you, I'm sorry. We're trying to pick up more people. We're trying to get more people to pay attention to this channel and not less people, because less is not more. If more were more, then less were more. And I don't know what I'm saying, but it feels like I'm saying it for no real and valid reason. I'm crazy, man. I'm crazy. All right. So let's get into the big part here. All right. So the big part is, what is today's question? As Bitcoin continues to slide, we need to consider that we're in a bear market. Now, are we in a bear market? And I don't think so. However, I'm going to give you what I did this morning and sort of break this down for you. And what I did was, by the way, spoiler alert, I went to Grok. I started talking to Grok about, what's going on here. And I wanted to get just kind of a breakdown and an idea of, how this is going to play out, basically. Just how is this going to play out? So with that, now we have to at least figure out and consider that, first of all, am I crazy? Probably. Probably, you know what I mean? Like, I could be just out of my mind. Does that seem likely? Yeah, it really does. So, let's see how it goes. Now, in the meantime, where can I do this? You know what? Let's start off, and then I'll show you from there. First of all, this is what I did. Now, I want to point out that I put a crazy, crazy question here. Normally, you give me a broad thesis that is readily available for why crypto is dumping, etc. But this time I want you to look at some of the major conspiracies like Wintermute sell-off in the Trump administration and give me a deeper dive into why the crypto market is dumping so consistently, and then develop a thesis on where the bottom is. After that, look ahead to positive catalysts that could address the reason for reversal. Why am I doing this? Because I don't like the news. I don't trust the news, okay? I don't think that they understand what's going on. I don't think that they have a hand in anything. And by the way, there is the chat window right there. So if you put a chat in there, I think, let's try this here. Yeah, there we go. Got it working right now. So let's just kind of check it out and see how it goes. All right. The crypto market's relentless slide in November of 2025, wiping out all year-to-date gains and shredding over $1 trillion in capitalization since the October peak, feels engineered for maximum pain. Bitcoin has cratered from 126,000 to around 84,000. Now, it did go down to 80,000. I'll show you on the chart in just a few minutes. And Ethereum down 27.29. Remember, it was a good time to buy when Eric Trump told you it was $3,000 or something like that. So we are way, way, way down. It is not working. Whatever's happening in this market. Total market cap sits at 2.92 trillion, down 161 billion in a day. So why is this happening? Number one, macro headwinds, the Fed's hawkish shadow and liquidity crunch. At its core, this dump is a risk-off exodus from speculative assets triggered by fading hopes for aggressive Federal Reserve easing. That's what we've been looking for, and that's what we've not gotten in a long time. That's what, this is one of the big problems in the market, is that we're not getting quantitative easing. We're not getting the rate cuts that we're looking at. And then we're having arguments over whether or not we're going to get those rate cuts. Markets are now pricing in just a 40 to 70% chance of a December rate cut. Now, by the way, just to give you some full clarity, you might notice that the market is in a reversal. I don't know that it's not going to go lower, but we seem to have hit a pivot point. And we're having it could be a dead cat bounce before we head lower. Could be some sideways action before we head lower. But we got some really interesting data that came out, and I can't wait to get to it. So make sure you hit the like button on your way in, by the way. The Fed's quantitative tightening ends on December 1st, but that's a slowdown in drainage, not a liquidity flood. Without net new money, risk assets like crypto are getting hammered. Liquidity's hollow core. Post-October, 10's 19 billion liquidation cascade order books thin dramatically, hurting market makers and amplifying volatility. CryptoQuant's weekly report calls conditions the most bearish since January of 2023, with open interest below pre-crash levels, stablecoin issuance. And by the way, this is a chill. Winter Mute's BS game that they pulled has absolutely capitulated the market at this point. Okay. Stablecoin issuance is showing inflows, but they're rotating internally, not fueling new buys. That means that people, and by the way, that means that people are interested in crypto, but they're on the sidelines waiting to see where the bottom is. AI stocks and tech giants tumbled, dragging NASDAQ down and spiking the VIX. We talked about this yesterday. NVIDIA started the morning off absolutely exploding, up 6%. By the end of the day, it ended up down 3% total, off of revenue of $55 billion. This is a level of insanity right now. This is a very, very scared market that is now PvP. By the way, crypto, always PvP. What do? You buy a crypto and you hold on to it and you hope that something happens and it's going to go absolutely crazy, that it's going to have some kind of fantastic run. And then what ends up happening mostly, it just gets dumped on. 90% of it is just gone. So what we're witnessing right now is PvP playing out in the stock market. So institutional profit taking and ETF outflows, the sell the news trap. Long-term holders distributed billions for $100K for months, handing bags to institutions who now defend floors but won't chase highs. MicroStrategy bought 8,178 Bitcoin at $102,000 averages, but broader outflows dominate. Miners like Mara and CleanSpark dropped 2 to 3%, and Gemini plunged 62% from its listing. And $600 billion in total liquidation since October has scarred the market, forcing position reductions. Now, when we say this, I want you guys to understand something important. M2 money supply still going up. We're not going up along with that M2 money supply, and that is a problem. But if you zoom out, here's something to remember. At this point, if everybody is bearish in the market, and this, by the way, is the moment when you buy the fear. That doesn't mean we're not going to go lower, but this is where you buy the fear. But here's the thing. If everybody is bearish, then there has to be a pump because those people have to be liquidated. That's how market makers work. Now, what we're not seeing is we're not seeing that, and you have to ask yourself again, why? And could it be that their liquidity is a little bit lean, or could it be that Wintermute was the team behind it? Okay, so conspiracies, you nailed the big ones. These aren't tinfoil hat fever dreams. They're backed by on-chain sleuthing. Now, by the way, Evgeny Gavoy, who is the CEO of Wintermute, is saying that this is all Binance. This was not them. Okay, but let's go through the play. Okay, as Binance's top liquidity provider, Wintermute is accused of engineering dumps. On October 10, it funneled $700 million into Binance hours before the $19 billion liquidation event, sparking claims of a predatory extraction to shake out retail. Earlier in 2025, Wintermute dumped 20 million SOL, crashing at 14%, and BNB memes like ACT, often tied to the exchange rule tweaks. Ex-sleuths like Marty Party allege Binance transfers to Wintermute forced capitulation, turning volatility into profit via arbitrage and short 75% of its 123 million portfolio. CEO Evgeny Gavoy admits to embedded call options in deals that dump at highs, eroding fairness. During the crash, Wintermute paused trading when rules broke. Convenient regrouping. Recent X posts echo this. Wintermute shorts on Trump memes and pump fund signals smart money traps. It's not total control, but as a market maker, they amplify pain for gain. I mean, basically what we're talking about is they're running into the market, they're holding these massive amounts of cryptocurrency, and then they just start shorting. And while they're shorting the market, they're throwing another 700 million. And by the way, by the time it was done, that 700 million number ended up being closer to $1 billion. They're using some stale data here, but close to $1 billion was put back into Binance for them to quote unquote buy the dip. Also, while that was going on, they were shorting the market and might still be shorting the market. Next up, Trump's crypto president pivot. Executive orders for a Bitcoin reserve, Genius Act for stablecoins, dropped probes, and pardons fueled the October hype to 126K. But conspiracists say it's a rug. Tariffs timed with the October 10 dump, crashing stocks, then crypto. X threads claim a Trump and CZ cabal forced liquidations to make all poor have 9 to 5s, blaming Dems via engineered shutdowns or for unemployment spike, forcing Fed cuts. Leaked doc suggests Singapore meeting of funds exchange coordinated a supply flush pre-parabolic run. Trump's family crypto ventures and onshoring pariahs like Tether and Binance smell like insider dominance. Retail provide liquidity. Elites extract. 1x post. Institutions use common knowledge, cycles and halving against us. 100K is the new floor. Politically incorrect truth. Trump's pro-crypto facade masks wealth transfer from retail to Wall Street with tariffs as the spark. Now, if you're going to make an argument, you're going to say that Trump is good for crypto, which I believed as well. This also fits into the conspiracy. The conspiracy being that Trump really wasn't interested in retail, really wasn't interested in America becoming a crypto hub. That is circumstantial to what the real move is, and that real move could just be making sure that all of the riches get richer. I mean, and by the way, that is exactly the, if you look down the list here, then show me or stop me when I'm telling lies about what we're seeing and we're witnessing from the Trump administration in that regard. Macro uncertainty contributes to 40%. That's the Fed odd cuts and the quantitative tightening, and then the VIX spike. The institutional outflows represent 30%, liquidity and volatility, thin order books at 15%, then Wintermute 10%, and then the Trump tariff conspiracy 5%. So the thesis on the bottom is between 75 and 80,000 Bitcoin. Where are we, by the way, right now? Guess what? This is actually absolutely crazy. Where do we go? 80,000, 80,619. Now that does mean that this range that we're in right here should be the bottom, okay? That's what this means. So if we're looking at it from the bottom, this dump bottoms at 75 to 80K. By the way, we're going to give our props and we're going to give our flowers to Dr. Profit Crypto. If you are not following Dr. Profit Crypto, you might want to start following Dr. Profit Crypto, because I'm telling you right now, he called this, and if he calls it to the dime, you know, that's going to be absolutely crazy, 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 crazy. Okay. Historical parallels. Ever bull cycle mid-phase correction sees 20 to 30% wicks to flush leverage before Santa rallies. RSI at 12 has preceded 200% pumps 10 of 10 times historically. Let me say that one more time. RSI at 12, extremely oversold, has preceded 200% pumps 10 of 10 times historically. October's 19 billion liquidations were the violent top. Now we're in a healthy reset with 100K as the new psychological floor. By the way, there's plenty of different information about to come out that's going to change and flip this market on its head, in my opinion. Okay, we're going to talk about those in just a second. On-chain signals, miners reserves at multi-year lows, exchange inflows peaking, stablecoin dominance high, but issuance up 15 billion. Buyers are lurking. Issuance of $15 billion. Just consider this for a second. While this market is dumping, while this market is going down, 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 we've issued $15 billion more dollars in stablecoin than we had a month and a half ago. what is that money going to be used for? I mean, just let it sink in. Is it going to be used to just sit there and not make any money or any yield or anything like that? No, of course not. It's going to be used to buy the dip. The question is where the dip is. The December cut is now rising over 70%. Remember, it's 40%, was down to 42%. And guess what? We got new information today, which we're going to talk about in just a second. U.S.-China deal de-escalates tariffs. Gold's top mirrors the 2020 pre-Bitcoin breakout. No deeper bear. 2025's bull structure caps downside at 2024 highs, but adjusted for inflation. Winter mute. Elite shakeout ends when retail capitulates. And we're at 10 to 15 on the fear and greed index. Bulls like Ash Crypto note 45 days from dump to 60% pump. In November of 2024, 66K low goes up to $108,000. And that proves, or at least should prove, his thesis. If the Fed skips the December cut, then 70K gets tested, but substantiation leans bullish. History, data, and psychology say hold for a flip, okay? And look, if we're all morons and we don't understand these markets, Grok understands the markets, and it's not looking at it from one perspective or another. It's only looking from the perspective that I gave it right now. So, positive catalysts for a reversal. Number one, the Fed pivot and liquidity flood, 25 bips cut, and quantitative easing starts. Trump's crypto overdrive. Bitcoin Reserve EO expands. Clarity Act passes, clarifying CFTC SEC rules. Unlock 1 trillion institutional inflows. Crypto Czar Summit at the White House signals U.S. as capital of the world. By the way, that summit, December 14, is actually really happening right now. So that's already been scheduled. Just so you guys are, in case you're not clear of it, that appointment is December 14 at the White House, and it's going to be all the big crypto bros doing their thing. Also, altcoin staking ETFs approved in Q1. That's going to be Ethereum and Sol. Remember that. That's what I told you was the biggest problem in the market overall, is that you can't earn anything off of Ethereum. BlackRock's XRP ETF launches amid the crisis. An ironic liquidity grab turns bullish. Inflows reverse with $2 billion in outflows. Then you have the AI crypto integrations that are going to mature, pulling $100 billion from tech giants. NASDAQ rebounds spills to crypto. And then you've got the on-chain retail revival. Post-capitulation, OG sells dry up. Meme coin rotation ends. Majors, File, Tau, XMR lead random pumps into a structured alt season. X sentiment, bloody 2026 setups right now. So what does it mean? Well, let's start moving along and getting some of this news right here, because the first big thing was Stephen Moran, who is one of the Fed chairs, one of the Federal Reserve governors. He signals support for a rate cut amid dovish data, and he said that if a rate cut is voted on, he will vote yes for a rate cut, because he believes that the monetary policy stance right now requires a rate cut, and that he says he is obviously dovish based on the economic data that was released yesterday. So now you get an additional vote. And by the way, this was not somebody who was likely to vote yes, is now likely to vote yes for it. Also, Bitcoin starts to bounce at 84K as Williams puts a December rate cut back on the table. What is that? That's the New York Fed president, John Williams, said Friday there's still room to adjust policy in the near term, talking about adding a rate cut. So not only do we have Stephen Moran from the Fed, we've also got the New York Fed saying rate cuts are going to be absolutely necessary at this point. This is what we're looking for out of the market. We're looking for the Fed to step in and continue the rate cuts. All the data right now is pointing towards continued rate cuts after a couple of days of, maybe we're not going to get it. Maybe we're not going to get it. Let's go to FedWatch over here, and we look at FedWatch, and it was 40%, okay? It was 40% for a rate cut yesterday. Today, 73.4%. The market has shifted dramatically. Does not mean that it's going to be Bitcoin. Does not mean that it's going to. It doesn't mean that. You know what, Derek? I don't know. I'll be honest with you, man. I have no idea. And by the way, the ads, they're what pays the bills, by the way. So I'm not sure exactly how this. I'm still working through this. So we'll see here. Continuing in the grip of panic, Bitcoin managed to bounce back over 84,000 from its morning low of 81,000. So we're seeing a little bit of an attempt at a reversal. Now, let's go back and let's start talking about more data. Raoul Pal, for those of you that don't know, Raoul Pal is a Bitcoin investor. He's a long-term hodler who has said the only reason he ever gets wrecked is when he tries to trade as opposed to just hold for a long term. So what he says is utterly brutal crypto markets with relentless rapid positions unwinding and rumors swirling after 10 of 10 of impaired market makers' balance sheets lead to less liquidity and someone blowing up. So is there a possibility that one of these guys like Wintermute blows up? I mean, it's always possible, right? We don't know whether it will or will not, but it reminds me a lot of 2021 when in a 4-week period, Bitcoin fell 56%, ETH 62%, and Sol 68%. It then sharply reversed and exploded to all new highs. That sell-off was as baffling as this one. With macro backdrop still so positive, it is hard to think that we won't see something similar here. But massive downside volatility like this is not easy for anyone and would not certainly something I expected to see at this stage, but it is also not out of the norm. Back in 2019 to 2020, we had a 72% sell-off. Back in 2016 to 2017, we had 7 sell-offs of over 30%. Alts always do worse of those periods too. The current price action is showing no signs of letting up, yet even though we are massively oversold, but having lived through huge rapid de-risking events before in many markets, this too shall pass. My strategy is to add into these sell-offs, but I'm okay with large swings in P&L in a long-term multi-year trend, as I've explained many times. But everyone's circumstances and time horizons are different. Good luck out there. It's ugly and made harder by the lack of actual negative news outside of the price. Think that through. It's ugly and made harder by the lack of actual negative news outside of price. Try to get away from your screens if you can and get into nature to de-stress. So there are a lot of different conversations here too. The difference between the current corrective phase in 2021 is that we had very real FUD in 2021 of China banning mining. That was long-term structurally bullish as miners found a new home in the USA. What is the catalyst this time around? No one seems to know. Okay. Massive Wintermute liquidation event that they are later denying despite wallet evidence has spooked the 4-year cycle bros. There we go. All right, that's just my opinion. You guys are entitled to whatever your opinion is. But let's keep going here because we've also got Crypto Quant that says Bitcoin ETF buyers are about to face their first real test. We often call ETF flows institutional money, but let's be honest, it's mostly retail buying through brokerage accounts. The line in the sand is 79,300, which is the current realized price. Above this, they feel smart, and below this, they feel panicked. These investors are not used to crypto drawdowns. If they go underwater, we could see a new wave of panic selling from a group that has never been tested before. So that's what we're watching for right now. Do we have a bunch of people in Bitcoin right now who have the stomach, the average buy rate on the ETFs, realized price, 79,300. A lot of people got in very, very early, and they're being tested. Are they going to have the stomach to hold, or are they just a bunch of babies? And there's going to be plenty of them that just don't have the stomach to hold. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not they will or will not. And by the way, with no negative news, it is wild that we don't get a spike. You know what I mean? Whatever excuse you want to believe, Orange Friday is a problem. I don't know what that means. All right, Coinbase is buying Vector.fun from Solana trading platform, but still don't support USTC, which is absolutely wild. I received a call from a friend of mine in government, and he says Bitcoin is going to reverse soon. The plan was to secretly create a Federal Reserve of Bitcoin at an 85K target. Sounds ridiculous, and obviously bears could send it lower, but after that, it's on. So, and by the way, that was just me playing around because I see people do this all the time. And then I said, just spoke to my source and was like, what WTF, bro? You said 85K. And he said, look, the bears will push as much as they can, but our level is around 85K. So we're done. And this is where we see a reversal. Bitcoin to the moon. I'm just messing around here, but guess what? Here we go. All I needed was somebody to just say, oh, bro, you're wrong. You're wrong. Engagement farming. I have to admit that to you. I was engagement farming. All right, now Tom Lee of BitMine, not Bitwise, not Tom Wise. Boy, I screwed his name completely up. And guess what? The Eternal Bull says this. And by the way, this is something that we were already reviewing. He said he pointed to social media posts from Trump over a video of some Democratic lawmakers that instructed members of the military to refuse lawful order. He later, this is seditious behavior, punishable by death, that didn't sit well with many members of Congress and rattled markets because now we've got Donald Trump talking about killing opponents. That's not a great sign. And by the way, there are people right now in the MAGA party who are trying to make it sound like that's not exactly what he said. What he said was anybody who's treasonous, blah, 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 blah. But he's also posting pictures of the same people. So they're covering for whatever his opinion is. And by the way, how is it not seditious when you tell people don't listen to the commander-in-chief of the United States if you're in the military? That is basically your general. Like, how is it not? So I don't know the answer to that, but it sure makes me think. And again, I tell you guys all the time, I'm not on Team Trump, but that seems pretty obvious to me. Another factor, Bitcoin peaked on October 10. We know that peak had to do with crypto liquidation event, but it's been bleeding lower since. And the S&P peaked on October 29, 3 weeks later. And he says that he suggests investors monitor the biggest corporate holder of Bitcoin strategy, which has been acting as a leading indicator for the stock market. He said a driver for crypto weakness seems to be caused by ongoing stress for a couple of market makers. He told CNBC on Thursday that the crypto market has been limping along since its sharp pullback, which really crippled market makers of crypto. Market makers are critical in crypto because they provide liquidity. They act as a central bank for crypto, and they've got a hole in their balance sheet that they need to raise capital for. They need to reflexively reduce their balance sheet, reduce trading, and if prices fall, they have to do more selling. Lee said the drip lower for the last few weeks in crypto is reflective of the damage done to these market makers. He said in 2022, it took 6 to 8 weeks for crypto market makers to recapitalize, and we're 6 weeks into this process. Wall Street's biggest bull reveals what investors got wrong. No, Oracle was the fourth trigger, owing to exploding credit default swaps, a measure of default risk. Some people are theorizing that Oracle is being used as a hedge for AI, which remains to be seen, but is upsetting investors anyway. So the volatility on Oracle is messing with the AI market. And what they're saying, by the way, is that AI is just overvalued. So we'll see what happens there. Also, this is the biggest load of horse pucky. I use words that YouTube's not going to get mad at. The real reason why Bitcoin is crashing, MicroStrategy in trouble, okay? This is coming from Ran Nooner, Crypto Insider. I don't even know what Crypto Insider is. I assume it's just his secondary or thirdary channel, or I don't know how many channels he's got, but I just saw this. It popped up on my radar this morning, and he says that MicroStrategy is in trouble. So is MicroStrategy in trouble? MicroStrategy's Bitcoin position is almost red. Bitcoin just extended its decline to a low of 80,500, just 6,000 away from MicroStrategy's entry of 74,433. Now, is that their total entry? It's an average entry. It's not where they entered. They've been buying since 30,000. They bought at 16,000. They bought at 50,000. They continued to buy, and they bought last week at 102,000. Okay, this puts them around 8% away from MicroStrategy's position turning negative. Just 46 days ago, MicroStrategy's position was up 70%. The stock, MicroStrategy, is now down 70% from its record high. Can Saylor keep buying? By the way, 70% correction from that, does that sound like a bad thing? That sounds to me like a basic Fibonacci retracement, so I'm not really concerned about it. I think we're going to see it move back to the 236, like we would see on anything else. And that means mostly about a 50% pump on MicroStrategy coming up over the next little while. It doesn't mean that it's going to be today or tomorrow, but I think MicroStrategy is preparing for a massive reversal. Also, I wanted to give you guys the actual numbers because it's very, very important. So I asked AI to come up with what is going on. Concerns exist that MicroStrategy's leveraged investment in Bitcoin could be forced to liquidate holdings if the price drops sharply. And they have 640,000 with an average price of 74,433. But this is right here. Some analysts suggest that the actual trigger price for a forced liquidation is very low. One estimate placed the critical price point around 91.5 for the company to avoid selling related to certain debt obligations, but other analysis indicates Bitcoin would need to fall to approximately 12,650 for the company to face serious financial trouble where debt exceeds value. So MicroStrategy is fine. MicroStrategy, and by the way, even if you look at some of the people who've been talking about it, most of the people associated with strategy are looking at this number right here, 12,650. That's their number. Okay, so if Bitcoin falls to 50,000, MicroStrategy is just going to issue more debt and continue to buy more. They're going to buy the dip and they're going to lower their DCA. And then they're going to ride this thing back up to the next big pop. And by the way, we're going to get to the chart in just a moment and we're going to talk about that next big pop. Also, Andrew Tate, I don't have anything to do with Andrew Tate, but I really wanted to say this for you guys. I just wanted you guys to see exactly what's going on over here. Andrew Tate has opened another long on Bitcoin today and got liquidated within an hour. He's now been liquidated 84 times in total on Hyperliquid. This guy is absolutely getting annihilated. Woo! Woo! Now, here's the thing. Andrew Tate, you said we are going to 26,000. Why are you going long then? There you go. Asking the right questions right now of the wrong people. Also, Dr. Profit right here. If you guys are not following Dr. Profit, you might want to take a shot here at Dr. Profit Crypto. Now, he's got me blocked because I didn't like some of his things and he was wrong before. However, forget about charts and indicators. Every single one failed this cycle. He's saying that the bull market peak indicators, which we talk about every day, no longer matter. Then he's showing you the numbers, okay? Since selling everything and shorting big, he's been making absolute banger gains. He's been absolutely crushing it. In 2021 at 68K, I said the top is in, 18K coming. At 18K, I said bottom is in, 120K coming. At 120K, I said top is in, 60K coming. So there you go. And then what happens after 60K? Bottom formation, probably one capitulation event, and then preparation for the next bull market. Now, he is one of the very few. And by the way, even if he's wrong about this being the bear market, even if this is just a drawdown, he's still giving you the right prices. So you got to put some respect on his name. I try not to, by the way. I try not to, but it's very hard at this point to not respect that. Also, Assemble AI, just for some clarity's sake here, Assemble AI just a few moments ago was starting a really nice pump on the day. It was up 17%. Remember, it was breaking out, okay? And we talk about this all the time, right? We had a massive breakout here on Assemble Protocol. And what did I tell you? When we have massive breakouts on Assemble Protocol, that generally means that the market is getting ready for some kind of big upward move. Also, maybe related to AI. Assemble Protocol is an AI on Coinbase. So if it's starting to pump, in the event that it actually is starting to pump, and it's not just some kind of market maker, artificially placed sort of cash grab, if that is the case, then as this market cycle starts to reverse just a little bit, if it does, and by the way, down $200 billion at one point on the day. We're down $100 billion more dollars. Crazy, crazy, crazy numbers. And we're getting bleeds absolutely everywhere of people just getting frustrated and saying, you know what, that's it, I'm out. People can't take it anymore because altcoins have been absolutely devastated. Okay, but Assemble Protocol was up 17% a little while ago, and I've told you guys repeatedly, anytime you would listen, that when Assemble Protocol pumps, that usually means the market is about to reverse and have some good days. So investors are selling crypto funds at a record pace. Crypto funds saw $2 billion in outflows, the largest since February. This also marks the third consecutive weekly sale, bringing the total to $3.2 billion. Bitcoin led the outflows with $1.4 billion, while Ethereum saw $689 million, marking some of the biggest weekly losses this year. As a result, daily average outflows as a percentage of assets under management over the last month have risen to the highest level on record. Combined with price declines, total assets under management have dropped 27% to $191 billion. This is a structural decline. Scary. Michael Saylor also has responded to the index matter, and he says, strategy is not a fund, not a trust, not a holding company. We're a publicly traded operating company with a $500 million software business and a unique treasury strategy that uses Bitcoin as productive capital. This year alone, we've completed 5 public offerings of digital credit securities, representing over $7.7 billion in notional value. We also launched Stretch, a revolutionary Bitcoin-backed treasury credit instrument that provides variable monthly USD yield to institution and retail investors. Funds and trust passively hold assets. Holding companies sit on investments. We create, structure, issue, and operate. Our team is building a new kind of enterprise, a Bitcoin-backed structured finance company with the ability to innovate in both capital markets and software. No passive vehicle or holding companies could do what we're doing. Index classification doesn't define us. Our strategy is long-term. Our conviction to Bitcoin is unwavering, and our mission remains unchanged: to build the world's first digital monetary institution on a foundation of sound money and financial innovation. And by the way, that just happened while we're live, okay? Michael Saylor going in deep right now, letting you know that no matter what these people are saying, that they are in for the long haul on Bitcoin. Reassuring the markets is basically what he's doing, okay? And NVIDIA founder Jensen Huang says the whole world would have fallen apart if NVIDIA missed earning expectations. Now, why does that matter? Because, again, 2 days ago, Jensen Huang had a profit margin of $55 billion. $55 billion in profit. For NVIDIA, the market responded by pumping at 6%, and then out of nowhere, the market collapsed. Just ask yourself, is it because of fundamental issues or is it because of manipulation? And I believe you're going to know what the answer is right there. You can only manipulate so far. You can only manipulate so long before a price point steps in. And by the way, I don't know what that price point is. I'm assuming for Bitcoin, it's going to be about $75,000. It just hit 80,000. So, maybe that's the spot. I told you guys, we have these zones. We have these places where we have to protect, and we'll see whether we get strong bounces. Are you stepping in and are you buying the dip? And how many people are doing that? And does it beat the bears who are making it very easy right now because they're shorting the market? Okay. Now, the question would be, are liquidity pools forming? Because the leverage positions, by the way, leverage wipeouts are what's going to matter the most. What we need to see, by the way, to correct this market is going to be a strong cascade of liquidation of bears, scaring them out of the market and letting the later movers, by the way, not your Dr. Profit cryptos who started shorting at 115 to 125,000, but we're talking about the guys right now who are looking at it at 84,000. It just went down to 80,000. They went to sleep thinking, yes, baby, I am the king of everything, waking up and being liquidated, okay? Those are the people that they're going to go after next, okay? The Johnny-come-latelys. Then MicroStrategy's Bitcoin position here, again, 74.40, but it's way, way, way below that, okay? And look at this. Bitcoin falls below 81,000, over 1.5 billion in liquidations. Again, these are longs that are being liquidated. These are not shorts being liquidated. And I want you guys to understand something. It is not, this market is very simple, okay? Bulls make money. Bears make money when one is making a ton of money, like the bears right now, because the bulls for a long time were absolutely annihilating the bears. Now the bears have had their moment of being right. Now that this has happened, the question is, When do the bulls step in? When do they start doing a massive accumulation? Because guess what? The people who have sold are starting to get exhausted. I gave you the data from JP Morgan. I gave you the data from Standard Chartered. They all say that the sellers are starting to tire, that the market is wearing thin, that everybody's ready for another massive move. So that massive move, probably to the upside. No bull market peak indicators have been hit, by the way. So again, despite the fact that people are saying, and again, all credit to Dr. Profit Crypto. He absolutely called this thing 100%. And I fought every step of the way. I fought every step of the way to say that that was not going to happen, but it is happening exactly as he predicted. This guy is an absolute prophet when it comes down to it. Go to terracasino.io for all your risk-based gaming needs. Terraport.finance if you want to buy meme coins or utility coins. You can even, just by clicking swap down here behind me, you can pop in here, throw your wallet up, and buy yourself some Believe meme coin. Not supported, just Dev down big again, just with the rest of the market. Not the bottom, but it's down 11% on the day. A lot of that, by the way, has to do with the fact that Ethereum can't hold up its end of the bargain. Remember that Dev is paired right now with Ethereum. So when Ethereum bleeds, when Ethereum dumps super hard, then Dev starts dumping super hard. When you see Dev dumping super hard, what do? You end up dumping your Dev and you end up losing out. So that's what's going on right now. So we'll see if something changes. Bloodbath everywhere. Fear and Greed Index is now into single digits, I want to say. No, it's at 14 right now, but it was at 11 yesterday. Some people are saying that it's at 9 right now. So there are multiples of these. There are multiple indices on the Fear and Greed Index. One is the Bitcoin, one is the crypto, et cetera, et cetera. So, you might see something, crazy happening. But right here, this is where, again, so where the quote unquote rubber hits the road, if you will. Looking at it on a 1 week basis, where is the liquidity? Look at how much is available up here at 93,000. Look at what's available up here at 97,000. Market makers are going to go after the liquidity pools. And if they're all showing up here, then you could expect to see, even if it's a dead cat bounce, even if it's a run up here to grab these and then dump even further, they're going to have to grab those at some point. Again, that's how the market adds liquidity, and that's how you get on one of those spectacular sort of runs. So now let's move out to the 3-month window and see what it looks like. And by the way, look at that. We've absolutely capitulated down to the 3-month low. So there's no more money on the table on the 3-month chart, which is wild, by the way. And on the 1 year, we're almost done. Like, we've almost capitulated completely all the way down right there to that previous bottom at this point. So the question is, how much money is sitting right there? And then how much could be available for the bulls if the bears are sitting there waiting right now for, this next move. So this looks like a crazy moment. Derek says, what was the crypto market cap before Trump took office? I wonder if I'm not, you know what? I might not even be using the right goddamn chat. What was the crypto market cap the day that Trump took office? Was January 21. So right there. All right. The crypto market closed at 3.57 trillion market cap. So, let's do, what can we do here? I got an idea. Trump takes office, crypto at 3.57 trillion MC. All right, now let's try to find where we're at for that style coordinates. Right there. All right, so Trump takes office, crypto at 3.57 trillion market cap. So if we now look at it from the monthly, then there we are, 3.57 trillion market cap. So we want to start at 3.57 trillion market cap. Right there. Crypto is down 23% from when Donald Trump took office. Crypto is down 23% from when Donald Trump took office. Now, let's consider that we've had a little bit of clawback on that. So it's 21% as we currently sit right now. 23% just a few short minutes ago. So, yeah, Trump has not been good for crypto, but let's be honest here. I don't think that that's really a Trump thing. You know, and look, I'm the first one to dunk on him when I don't think that, you know, when I think he's done something wrong. I don't think he's done anything wrong with crypto. All right. I just don't. I reject the fact that there's something negative about what Trump's been doing. Also, let's go to the DEX over here. I figured out DEX Screener last night, so we don't have to move back to DEX Tools. It's a bloodbath. It's a bloodbath. Everywhere you look, there's liquidity extraction from every single thing. Most of these are tied to Solana. Most of these are tied to Ethereum. So if they're going to bleed, you know, if the majors are going to bleed, then they're going to bleed. Solana down to $126, down 6% on the day. Ethereum down another 4%, down to $27.15. As a matter of fact, I actually had, let's go look, Eric Trump short Ethereum. There was somebody right here. Right there. There you go. Eric Trump just dropped a hot take. He said never short Ethereum. By the way, was it 4,351 the day he said never short Ethereum? Let's go back here, and we're going to go to this, and we're going to go to October. There we go, right there. And we're going to do note. All right, Eric Trump says never short Ethereum. That's crazy, isn't it? And then price one is 43.51. There we go. So right there, Eric Trump said never short Ethereum. If you didn't and you used him as the Jim Cramer, we're down 40%. So if you use 5x leverage, you'd be up 200% on your position if you ignored Eric Trump and just followed the absolute market conditions. Also, don't forget that back here, Eric Trump said something about Ethereum. By the way, let's go here to Eric Trump, good time to buy Ethereum. Let's see if we get that here anywhere. Do we have that originally? February 4th. Eric Trump gave this tip on February 4th when Ethereum was at $2,700. God damn. This is absolutely crazy, man. This guy is the believes of of telling you when to buy. That's sad, right? Because I've missed as many as he has. Even though he's only, everything that he's done has been down. It's just because he hasn't made as many predictions as I have. You know what I mean? Like last year, we hit a whole bunch of different predictions on where we thought the market was going to go. And he didn't because he wasn't in the market. Like I don't want to be disrespectful to Eric Trump. I mean, he's got the ears of the Secret Service. He could have me Epsteined. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, yeah, we're in a bad strait. And by the way, let's go down the list here. 6% sell off in BNB. 8% on Link, 4% on XRP, 9% on SWE. And these are after massive dumps, just continuation of dump after dump after dump. Another 5% for Avalanche, 8%, almost 9% for Near, down 6% on HBAR, down 10% on Arrow, down 8% on Pendle, down another 6% on Mantra. Don't even think it can go lower, and it continues to go lower. Down 11% on Dev, down 10% on Tau. Down 6% on API3, down 4% on VeChain, down 6% on Conflux, down 7% on Ondo, down 12% on Syrup. Like, it's just non-stop bloodbath. By the way, Fiat is down to 1.5 cents. That is your buy signal. Guys, if you want to make a few bucks, in my opinion, if you want to make a few bucks, right now would be a good time to buy yourself a little bit of Fiat, anticipating a move back up into this 2,000 range in very short order. By the way, that's a 33% increase. So if you put $1,000 into Fiat right now, most likely you're going to get a nice little reversal, and you might get a little spike there. You know what I mean? We might see a nice little reversal, a nice little spike. So I don't know whether we will or we will not. I'm just kind of postulating and guessing that that's what we could end up seeing. So, don't hold me to it, but I mean, just, you never know. You never know. And never take it for granted, by the way. The one thing that we're going to learn over here is take your profit along the way every single time. Remember, these guys are ghouls. These guys are vampires. They are leeches. The entire purpose of everything they do is to extract your money out of your pocket and put it into their pockets. There is no, there's no other way to put it. And by the way, let's go to the final piece right here for the day, and that's going to be the Bitcoin spot ETF. $903 million worth of sell-off yesterday. The biggest capitulation event that we've seen so far. Ethereum. What is the number here? 86. That is the biggest event that we have on file right now. 261 million. I think it's been worse. on Ethereum. So, I mean, and none of it's good, by the way. I'm not saying that any of it's good. But let's go to the Solana. Is this going to be the first outflow, or is it going to be continued inflows? Continued inflows. On the, oh my God, we're going to 0 day. The Solana ETF still brought in $23 million. So it's just so insane. All right, guys, that's it. That's the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, for those of you that don't know, I'm wearing an XL shirt. I never wear XL. I normally wear like 2XL or 3XL shirts, but I've lost so much weight and stuff like that these shirts are fitting a little bit better, and I can wear some of my old wardrobe. And if you're wondering about this right here, that's my man Ipkiss Pinecone. That is the guy who does my intro song. So if you guys are interested, go look up Ipkiss Pinecone to hear his music. Demi Demare is his real name, Demidemare. So if you want to check that out, then go for it. All right, that's the show. Thank you so much for tuning in.